What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the Thomas Gallery, and today I want to switch subjects a little bit. I want to do something a little different, show my range a little bit. I want to talk about the difference between weather and climate. Now, I probably think like, wait, what that got to do with art? You're an artist. What? Well, yes, I'm an artist, but I also have interest in other things. Okay, just like everybody else does. So I want to talk about weather and climate. Got a problem with that? Huh? Huh? No? Okay. All right. Anyway, weather and climate. Now, for many people who don't know, they probably have used these terms often and have used them in the wrong way. Okay? I mean, they may mean a certain thing, but they may use the wrong words to describe it. So I'm gonna break it down simply like this. The difference between weather and climate, the difference is very, very simple, but the impact is very, very large. Okay? Weather is simply, as a result of the atmosphere and the earth and all that stuff, from day to day. Like weather could be on a sunny day or in the summertime, it rains. That's the weather because that is just for that day. Like, I say, you always have like this 7-day weather forecast. What that means is from day to day, what what will what will your environment look like from day to day? Will it be raining? Will it be sunny? Will it be cold? Will it be windy? Like that. Okay? Like today, right now, it is sunny. Right now, it is sunny. But today may cause for rain, you know, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay? That's weather. Okay, that's the weather. That's weather. That's weather. Okay, that's just day to day. Because tomorrow may be different. Tomorrow may be different. Tomorrow it may be raining all day, and then Saturday it may be 100 degrees. You see that? It changes from day to day. That's weather. Okay. Now, depending on where you live, the weather may be different. Like on the East Coast, on the East Coast of the United States, it may rain. Okay, that's just the weather. And the next day it may, like I said, it may be sunny, all that stuff. Now with climate, the meaning is slightly different, but the impact is much greater. Okay. Now remember when I said that weather is, what the environment is from day to day. Climate is simply it's weather on a long-term scale. It's pretty much like weather on a long-term scale. Like if I were to say, what's the weather like in Atlanta, Georgia, or Washington D.C., you can give me you can give me today's forecast. You can say, okay, well today it was sunny. Okay, now if I were to say, what is the climate like on the East Coast of the United States? What I'm asking you simply is, on an average, depending on seasons and all that stuff, what is the weather most likely to do on a long-term scale? Okay? Right. We know, let's say Georgia for example. We know that Georgia is known for its heat. We know Georgia is known for its heat, okay? We also know that certain times of the year, depending on where you are, like that's the overall climate there. We know it is known for heat. However, that's the climate, not the weather. The weather could be one day it snows in Georgia. One day it snows in Georgia, or 2 days for that matter, it snows in Georgia. That's the weather. That is not the climate because it doesn't normally snow in Georgia, especially like places like Atlanta. It doesn't normally snow in like Atlanta, Georgia. No, it doesn't. On average, I always say that Georgia, or Atlanta for that matter, has 3 seasons. I know the Earth has 4, but I always say it has 3. It has autumn, it has spring, and it has summer. Because the winters in Georgia don't feel like the winters in uh, Wisconsin. They're not the same. The winters in Georgia don't feel like Chicago winters, or Washington, D.C. winters, or Michigan winters. It's not the same. Winters in Georgia almost feel like autumn. Based on where I've lived and me being here, winters in Georgia feel like autumn to me. But that's just like the overall climate. Now, if all of a sudden things change, in the earth, then you may say, okay, the climate is different. And the reason why you have weather and climate is simply because of the tilt of the earth, which is 23.5 degrees, as it relates to the sun, the position of the earth as it relates to the sun. And because of that position, sunlight is not distributed equally on any given point of the earth. We all know that half of the earth is always covered in sunlight and the other half is covered in darkness, or pretty much the shadow of the earth. We know that. But the tilt of the earth is what gives it its weather patterns, plus its rotation. The rotation of the earth assists in that. So depending on where you are in the world as it relates to the tilt of the earth, your climate, your overall weather, which is your climate, could be extremely different. Like, the climate in the North Pole is different from the climate in Africa. And the climate in the North Pole is always cold because of the amount of light and heat that is distributed over the North Pole and South Pole as it relates to Africa. Africa is known for being hot. Known for being hot. Okay? Australia is known for being hot. Those are the climates. South America, Brazil, the Amazon rainforest, is known for being wet. It's known for raining a lot. That's the climate there. You're more likely to, you can expect rain in South America as opposed to expecting rain in the Sahara. Your expectations are different. That's why it's called the rainforest, because it's a forest that has an abundance of water coming down on, abundance of rain coming down on it. It's a rainforest. That's the climate there. The weather could be, okay, one day in the rainforest, it snows. That's the west weather because that happens for one day. Now, if that snow should continue for an extremely longer period of time, that means the climate has changed. Or let's say in Egypt, if all of a sudden in Egypt, for one day in Egypt it snows, that's weather. But let's just say that from this point forward, all it does is snow. It becomes cold in Egypt. That has not become weather because it's long term. It's long term, and most likely it's not going to change. Like, if South America one day goes through a drought, and for thousands of years, South America has now become a desert. That's a climate. Okay, that's a climate. That's not weather no more. It's a climate. The climate it's a rainforest. The weather could be it's 110 degrees. Okay, so that's the difference between climate and weather. Weather is short term, weather is day to day, or at the most, week by week. Climate is overall. Climate is how the environment is. Hey, it's always hot in Africa. It's always wet in South America. Okay? It's always cold in the North and South Pole. Those are climates. You have like the tundra. You have places like deserts. Those are climate terms. Tundra, like they're called the frozen tundra. You have deserts. Okay. And here's the thing. Desert doesn't always mean something is dry and hot. No, 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 no. That doesn't always mean that. A desert is not a weather pattern or a climate term. A desert is a word to describe the amount of life there. It's barren. It's barren. Like you can have a cold desert because there's nothing there. Like you have a hot desert, you can also have a cold desert. Okay, so see what else. And depending on the climate and the weather, mainly the weather, mainly the climate, depending on the climate of that area, you can tell what kind of climate you're in based on the vegetation and based on the animals that live there. Like I said, if you go to the rainforest, you see nothing but trees, which means you'll have an abundance of animals because you have an abundance of shelter, you have abundance of food. Okay? That's the climate in Brazil, like the Amazon rainforest. That's the climate there. However, let's say go to the Sahara Desert. There's not much vegetation there in the Sahara. It's dry, desolate. It hardly ever rains. That's the climate there. Now you may get a day or two of rain, but that's just the weather. The weather could be okay for the Sahara Desert over Libya and for all the way from Libya to Egypt. It's gonna rain for that day. That's weather. But on an overall, it's dry. So the climate is dry. The weather could be rain. There's a difference. Day to day is weather. Overall, over a long period of time, is climate. Okay. Now they both have something to do with the rotation of the Earth and the tilt of the Earth. They're both related to that. But depending on where you are, if the light and heat from the sun is always at that particular point from every year, it's steady, then you will have a climate there. Like where the sun is, as it relates to where Africa is, it will always be hot because of the location of Africa as it relates to the location of the sun and the correspondence of light and heat between the sun and the earth. Africa will always be hot. Okay? Like I said, now you may have some days of rain, but it will always be hot. Okay? You will never see Africa turn into the rainforest. Africa turn to rainforest unless there's a shift in the tectonic plates and the continents move, or the earth were to move, or the sun were to move somehow. You will never see it. Okay, so that's basically it. Weather is short term, day to day, at most a week. Climate is overall over a long period of time. Okay, so that's basically it between weather and climate. So hope y'all learned something. Thank y'all for watching this. Leave a comment down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. I will catch you all later. Peace.